Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, where everything's fictional, even you. And now, here are your hosts, three people who don't know the meaning of spoiler alert: Garrett, Zach, and Crystal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, the podcast that's all about fiction, and more fiction, and telling the best truth through the medium of lies. I am your host, Garrett Robinson, not sponsored by Newcastle, contrary to evidence. With me today are your co-hosts, Z.C. Bolger, author of Danny Calloway and the Puzzle House, not the Puzzle series, and Crystal Logothetis, pen name of V.C. Cole, author of Via Rosal. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Not much.
Our second week of no technical issues before we started. We were just late because we were late, not because we were fiddle fucking around with cameras.
Exactly.
Fiddle fucking around.
So
that's a great
fiddle
one.
Fucking. What, fiddle fucking?
I actually like it more than my. This is my new favorite word. It used to be clusterfuck, but fiddle
But now
fucking.
it's fiddle fuck?
Yeah, it's great. It has a great ring to it.
Yeah, it actually does. Correct use of the term ring. Well done. Not like last week. So, did anybody publish anything this week? You did? No?
I did not, but I'm this close to publishing.
Well, I did.
Yay! Tell us.
Today I published Hit Girls Season 1. I will screen share it here for you.
There it is.
Yeah.
Nice.
You see it? Yeah, buddy. That is my my first serialized novel, and that's we've mentioned it on the what?
Sorry, I accidentally hit the YouTube link, and then I was having like two different audios.
You opened it up and you heard the echo. Yeah, so Hit Girls is out, despite Zach's vague attempt to derail me. Yeah, it's first serialized novel. I have released Season 1 and Episode 1. Episode 1 is out for 99 cents. There are 6 episodes in the season. Episode 1 is going to be free this weekend from Friday to Sunday. And each episode, as they come out, will be free on their debut weekend, because the idea is to get people to download it for free. They read it, and they're like, oh, what happens next? And then they go buy the full season. A model I completely did not rip off of the guys over at the self-publishing podcast. So other than
that's very cool, by the way.
Yes.
Sorry.
Very super cool. Thank you. God damn it. Get no recognition.
I didn't hear any of your thing because I had. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Congrats. So other than the publishing world, did anybody have a good week? What were you guys up to?
I had a great week. I've been getting everything ready for releasing Danny Calloway next month, and things have been going smoothly. I had a 2-week process of getting the Library of Congress number.
Right.
And that took 24 hours, which was awesome. So
they always do that,
but it felt good.
Yeah,
because I was freaking out about it. I had no idea what the fuck I had to do, and eventually it was just like boom, 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 and it was done. I wrote up a step-by-step on how to do that. I'll be posting it later, but
awesome.
Yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, cool. And then
I never remember to do show notes,
so. And what else? I don't know. I've been so busy that I didn't write down any notes for this podcast until about an hour ago. So.
Well, I noticed that neither one of you came to my fucking birthday party on Saturday.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, well, you're in Miami. Crystal, you should have been there.
Look, man, I'm pregnant. I am tired all the time.
What was the reason you gave me over the weekend why you couldn't come?
I'm a married woman. I have laundry to do.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I actually did not do any laundry. Just to put it out there.
That's not very That's not very strong, independent woman of you. I mean, don't you have a husband who can help you with that? I mean, what do you look for in a guy anyway?
Length and girth.
Oh, really?
Oh
That's
my
it?
God.
Okay.
So out of fucking context. This is ridiculous. Now I can't share this podcast with my family.
Too bad. If didn't you already tweet it? Aren't they watching it live right now?
I'm just gonna sit here with my hoodie on in shame the whole podcast.
Eskimo Crystal. Okay, so
That should be a sexual position.
so
Wow.
what should
Eskimo crystal.
Eskimo? Yeah, you want to do an Eskimo crystal? What's that? I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So there was a request on the Storytelling Podcast website, thestorytellingpodcast.com, if you're new to the show. And a guy commented on 2 separate episodes. He was like, yeah, guys, keep talking about your subscribers at the beginning of the show. That never gets old. So we're going to do that.
I was going to bring that
Wonderful.
up to you.
Right. Subscribers this week was hilarious. So we recorded last week's episode, and what did I tell you it was? It was
40
18.
something.
No, it
and
was
then
18.
18.
No.
Oh, okay.
Damn it, Crystal, you're spoiling the story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
So I checked it a
Start
couple
this
days
over.
later. I checked it a couple days later after not paying attention, and it was at 41 subscribers, which I was going to make the whole joke of over 40 subscribers, which ironically is exactly what the Self-Publishing Podcast did on their episode 4. They had the same number of subscribers, the same joke. So I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then the next day, I check it again, and it was 38. I was like, oh. And then I checked it again the next day, and it was 23, and I was like, what the fuck?
You know what? I take full responsibility for that. I mentioned Jim Carrey twice.
You did.
And that probably did it. That
You
did
did.
it right there. It just killed things.
He's number 1 on your free pass list, isn't he? He's
Absolutely
the one
not.
celebrity you get to have.
Absolutely hell no. No.
I don't believe you. I think he is.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, actually, I just remembered something else actually happened. I don't know if anybody's. I mean, I know you, Garrett, have heard of the Amazon National Book Breakthrough Award or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, I submitted. I got through round 1, and then I didn't get through round 2.
And you didn't make it in round 2. I saw that on the email today. And I was going to call you and be like, oh, dude, you didn't get in. Then I was like, no.
Nah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it was fine because, I'm already set on doing self-publishing anyway.
Right.
So I wasn't even necessarily, I was honestly thinking, if they offered me $50,000 to sell my book, would I want to take it? That was my thought. And anyway, so.
And your answer was, of course, yes.
It was teetering, but what was great is that I got 2 reviews off of getting into the second round.
How did you get reviews? You're not even online.
They reviewed my 5,000 word
excerpt.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How were the reviews?
They're no,
moving
They were
swiftly
reviews.
onward.
Yeah. No, they're okay. They liked this. They liked the story idea. They liked the characters. They thought it was moving a little bit slowly in the beginning, and then they were pointing out he has a hat on in a classroom. No middle school grader would have a hat on in a classroom. I was like,
shut the fuck up.
Okay.
I know, seriously.
Says who?
Anyway.
They obviously didn't go to the same school we did.
Yeah, seriously. They pointed out a couple things, that I'm going to totally look over and
then tell them to go suck a dick.
Yeah, it was fun getting non-biased feedback from people that I have no idea who they are and they don't know who I am, that was nice.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's always good. Oh, speaking of reviews, if you are a fan and you do go by Hit Girls, please go leave a review, because as an indie author, self-published, you always sweat that first review on Amazon. It's always like, what if I get a 1 star? Because then your average, what displays on the site is 1 star rating for this book, and nobody's going to fucking buy it.
Dave is going to go give you a 1 star now.
He totally is.
We should have a whole podcast on trolls. What to do about trolls?
We could. They already did that on the Self-Publishing Podcast, but we're ripping everything off of them, so I don't see why not.
I totally don't remember that. What people should do is go on YouTube and find Cat Williams, Haters Are Gonna Hate. That is the greatest clip. Haters are gonna fucking hate, man. They're gonna hate. If you have 5 haters today, you gotta figure out how you're gonna have 7 haters in next month. It's their job.
I have not heard of that.
It's awesome.
So, shall we get relatively on topic?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we decided last week. What?
What's the topic again?
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Characters. Got it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, part 2.
You said you did research. I was
No,
like,
I made notes.
Zach.
Made notes. Didn't do research.
Caught. You just got
Decided
caught,
last
Zach.
week that an hour was not enough time to spend on developing characters, so we decided that we would do a second hour on that.
Right.
That's what
Maybe-
we said
Sounds
last
awesome.
week.
Maybe we can talk about what makes characters annoying. Because certain books I've read have great stories, and then there's always this one annoying character that I just want to like kill every time that character is speaking.
Well, since you've started the topic, go ahead, yeah.
No, come on, I'm just putting it out there as a topic. You
Well,
guys,
you started it.
Why don't,
give me an
why don't we
example
talk
of a
about
character
this
that's
subject?
like
I don't
Oh, yeah,
have
that's
any-
a good subject. Go ahead. I don't know anything about it, but I think that it should be talked about. I think that somebody should say words that relate to this.
somebody
Okay.
needs to talk about this. That isn't
Okay,
me.
I know
I don't have
I know what you're saying. I know what you mean. The most annoying thing for me for a character, which we got into a little bit last week, but I think we could delve into again. I don't know why, but giggity.
Okay.
Is characters who are very weak and don't make any decisions. If they're just there to be like background noise or filler, that's I don't know, because like I can think of many great stories where there are characters who are just there, they just are background and they don't do anything, and that's not so annoying. I think it's if you give your character the opportunity or a point where they should make a decision, they should do something, they should grow a pair, they should do something active, and then they don't. That's what will piss people off. Perfect example, Sansa from Game of Thrones. Either one of you, Game of Thrones? No, not at all.
I watched the first episode and bailed out when the midget had sex with a bunch of prostitutes and the twin brother and sister were doing
Wait,
it, and it
what?
was like
I
too
gotta
much
see
for
this
me.
show.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
It was too much for me. I was like, I can't do this.
See, I love the first Game of Thrones, and then the first Game of Thrones book, and I'm loving the whole series because it's TV, so they have to get their storytelling better than the book does, because there's this one character in Game of Thrones named Sansa, and she is the whiniest, the weakest, the most pathetic little bitch, and you just want to grab her by the hair and throw her off the top of the castle.
Is this the blonde chick?
Well, there's a lot of blonde chicks in
Like
this
the blonde chick that
That's the other thing.
has dragon eggs or something?
No. She's kick-ass. I like her.
Oh,
She's one
okay.
of my
Garrett
favorites.
Yeah, I
hates
thought she was pretty
blondes.
cool.
I definitely don't hate blondes. Well, not all of them. Just most. No, but Sansa is just and the other thing is like, you know, in Game of Thrones, like, people die all the time, and we won't get into who, Crystal, but but Sansa just goes on and on and on. I'm like, she should have died like in the first book. She should have been killed. And no, she's one of the ones that's still alive. And meanwhile, they kill lots of other people who you really, really like. That's one of the reasons why I hate Game of Thrones.
Well, maybe he's writing it so that you hate this person for 5 books, and then something's gonna happen where you're just like, okay, this is my favorite character now.
I don't know how he could possibly do that.
I would not put it past
I know.
him.
Okay, I will.
I would put it past
I watch. Well, I used to watch. I haven't watched it in a while. Grey's Anatomy. Okay. Now on Grey's Anatomy, there's this character named I forget what his name is. The hunky dude, not the other one, but the other one. Anyway,
No
he
fucking
came
clue.
in. I hated the guy. I hated the guy for like 2 seasons, but then after like the third season that he was on, I started to like him, and his character started developing more. But I
was
also
he
don't
weak,
know.
or did you not like the choices that he made? Careful distinction.
Right, that's what I'm about to say. I don't know. I was about to say when you cut me off. I don't know the character that you're talking about exactly, or what she's doing.
No. But I was saying in Grey's Anatomy,
Right.
did that guy make bad decisions, or did he not make decisions?
I just didn't like him as a person.
Right. Okay, but here's a contrast. Did you watch Lost? Did everybody watch Lost?
Yes.
I didn't see the final season, I think.
Okay, but you have seen enough. Sawyer.
Yeah.
Fucking you hate Sawyer. He's such a dick.
I liked him from the beginning. I loved Sawyer. He was like a bad boy. You know, he needed love and like a nice woman to just like caress his beautiful chest.
Length and girth.
Oh my God, are you serious? No, he was an abusive.
This is the blunt Texan guy, right?
Yes, he was an abusive fucktard at the beginning of that show, and then he
A little
went
bit.
on.
But you can forgive them when they're hot like that. And come on, he had an accent. He had good dialogue.
Oh my God, Crystal, you're the worst.
I can't. No,
I'm kind of
500 Days of
messing with
Summer.
you guys.
No, but look, 500 Days of Summer. I personally think Zooey Deschanel is awesome. I hate her in that movie.
Really?
Hate her. She pissed me off so bad.
Because she did bad stuff, or because she didn't do anything?
No, because she did bad stuff. I'm saying like this is to me, it's a Sawyer thing.
Okay,
I hated her.
Right, but see, I can't see Game of Thrones salvaging Sansa because she never does anything. And if she started doing good things, it would break her character. She wouldn't be the same person anymore. So either way, you're kind of fucked.
Right.
Sawyer, like he always did stuff. He was always active. I was just like, dude, you're a dick in everything that you do. But then that gradually changed. But he was still doing stuff. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Well, hopefully she dies a horrible death then.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I think that another factor is that sometimes these side characters, the author doesn't really see them, visualize them. The author is not in their head as much, so the dialogue is kind of crappy or weak or slanted a little bit, and it's not awesome enough that you can even like that character. Sometimes the character is just annoying because they're freaking there all the time, you know, occupying time and space in the book, and yet they're boring as cardboard. They're just their dialogue sucks. They don't really they don't provide anything to the storyline other than the fact that there's this guy tagging along through everything. And yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they don't do anything. They don't. But I think it has to do a lot with the author just inserting characters that he doesn't really feel a ton of affinity for, and that he's in their head and can really create good dialogue that's congruent with who they are and what they're doing.
He needs them there as plot devices because he needs something to happen, and he needs that character to do it.
I don't like characters that are pure plot devices. They annoy me. Like, I feel like every character, even if it's in the story for a few minutes, there should be a reason, and there should be something about them that you're like, oh, cool, you know, they're doing this or they're doing that. It makes it worthwhile. Otherwise, it's like, find another way to tell your story. Like, leave that worthless character out of it.
Assign those actions to a character who we actually can care about.
Right.
That's how I felt about Ron Weasley. I didn't like him in the first 2 books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
I kind of disagree.
They're all kids, though.
Yeah.
So there's always so much they can
But
do.
Crystal, did you read the books before you saw the movies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Way before. I was very disappointed by the movies. I mean, I liked the first one because it was a very unique movie for when it came out. You know, like I'm a sucker for cinematography. Like, I love the imagery. I was obsessed with Avatar. I saw it like 3 times, which I never see a movie twice ever. Mm-hmm. And I saw it 3 times because I just love the cinematography of it, like the the look of it. But
cinematography,
whatever it's called, the whatchamacallit.
No, you had it right. Yeah,
oh, okay, good. I'm always confused a little bit about that, but because I'm like, isn't cinematography the whole freaking thing? I mean, it's
yes. I was making a joke on the fact that it was all digital, so it was digimatography.
I see.
You Spaniard. Sorry, continue.
Anyway, so I'm just pointing out the fact that, you know, you can't really take my opinion of a movie to heart because it has a lot to do with the cinematography or diginematography or whatever. But I was overall disappointed by Harry Potter books because even though they were movies, even though they were relatively lengthy, I felt that the choices made and the things that were left out and the things that were left in were not as important. I felt like the sequence of events seemed differently because of all the stuff that was left out. And I know that you can't put everything in a movie like you do in a book, because it'd be a freaking 6-hour movie. But still, I think choices have to be made, and I feel like in every freaking turn of the way, they just picked all the wrong crap to put in the movies.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they did a good job on Hunger Games with that. I think that Hunger Games was a good adaptation. I think there were certain things that were left out. See,
adaptation.
But we had adaptation, but we had.
Sorry, I
we
said
only
that,
had
but
2.5. Garrett is the anal, fucking grammar Nazi.
Yep.
We only have 2.5 hours of film to fill.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can be done. I can't speak to the adaptation of the Hunger Games because, as I said, I really didn't like that book. Harry Potter, I thought was okay, but I mean,
I didn't like it.
I didn't
in terms
either.
of quality of adaptation, nowhere near as good as Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Even though Lord of the Rings had its own flaws, and there were things that I wish hadn't been changed or I wish hadn't been left out, and I even knew how I would have changed it or left it out. I don't care because the final product is still fucking amazing, and it contains all of the most important things, and the theme of the books is perfectly communicated by the movies.
Right. How do you feel about The Hobbit so far with the first one? Putting aside using CG without the makeup, I'm talking about story.
Right. I don't actually know. It's a little bit. It's rough. It's a little bit rougher than I wish that it was. I don't know. It's hard to distance myself from what I know of the book and the way that I always envisioned the book. See, that's the main thing for me, is I always envisioned events in the books a certain way, and part of that is because of the graphic novels that were done in, I think, the 80s and released and whatever. Point is, I always envisioned things a certain way, and then the movie is different.
Right.
Whereas with Lord of the Rings, when I saw in the second movie the land of the horse people and then the castle up on the hill and their city and everything like that, I felt like, oh, they must have drawn that somewhere. That illustration must have been in the book because that's exactly how I always thought of it. That illustration wasn't in the book. In fact, there were illustrations that were done, but I didn't find out about them until after the whole trilogy, and they used those and da-da-da-da-da. But it never, I had never seen it before, but they captured exactly exactly the way I imagined it. And that's the way that I felt about Harry Potter. They left stuff out, but everything that was in looked exactly the way that I'd always pictured it. The Hobbit didn't do that, unfortunately.
Right.
I still really like it. I like it as a movie in and of itself, but I'm struggling as a Peter Jackson fanboy to reconcile myself with the things that aren't perfect.
Right. All right. Well, we should move back on to characters then.
Yes, we should.
Yeah. I did want to talk about
on this show. What are people complaining about?
Exactly.
I wanted to actually ask you guys a question. First, I wanted to go over a couple things for the listeners. I feel that you have like 3 types of characters. If you were to classify them down into the basic character, basically, you have your heroes, which are your protagonists. They're the person in your book who, typically is identified with good qualities. You have your Spider-Man, your Harry Potter, Indiana Jones, Baldur, right?
Baldur.
And then,
Dungeons and Dragons jokes that nobody else gets, including our co-host.
And then you have your villains, your antagonists, who are, the bad guys, your Green Goblins, your Lord Voldemorts, the Nazis from Indiana Jones, a dragon or a troll or something from Dungeons and Dragons. But then you have your anti-heroes or anti-hero, right? And they are the character that is a protagonist but doesn't follow the same rules as a hero. They're kind of okay with killing and not putting in jail, and you have, anyway, I don't want to name those because I actually wanted to see from you guys who are your favorite anti-heroes.
Here's the thing, though. I don't consider that a separate class from protagonist. I think that there is protagonist, and then there's a subclass of protagonist, which is anti-hero. And those would be people like Punisher, people like
Wolverine
for sure, Han
Definitely.
Solo.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to find one.
So
the
an
guy from
anti
Taxi Driver.
Huh?
I forget his name. I forget the character's name, but the main character in Taxi Driver. You might not have seen that, but yeah.
Crystal probably hasn't.
No, I have not.
If
So
the name
is
of the
it-
movie isn't Francesco della Rosa Magrasapa Parataposa, then she probably hasn't seen it.
I don't watch weird crap like that. Excuse me. I actually don't watch any foreign, like Spanish films,
Did you
especially
say foreign
not.
or porn?
Either, probably.
Just checking.
I said foreign. Let me get close to this mic so you can hear me better.
Oh, that was so much better.
No, I was just
Yeah,
gonna say
actually,
I don't freaking watch novellas in Spanish TV or anything. So
Okay,
there's no
but-
Francesca
no.
Papeshka.
So Krista.
But I was
Crystal,
gonna ask.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. So an anti-hero, because I'm excuse my ignorance and please enlighten me, is a hero that has that whole "I don't want to be a hero" attitude, kind of like Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element type of thing,
No.
or
Not quite.
because
Bruce-
all the guys
Bruce
you
Willis-
just mentioned have that going for them.
It's not that they don't want to be a hero, it's that their version of what's good doesn't agree with society.
Oh, I
Han
see.
Solo is a good guy, but he is a smuggler. And he
Yeah,
doesn't
but he
do
does
that.
good things the whole freaking movie. He's shady, but
Right, that's why he has the hero part on his name.
Exactly. That's the
But
that's the
it's
anti-hero. But it's right. It's just a term.
Compare
It's just a
compare Superman to Batman. Let's say.
right, I see what you mean.
Okay,
So,
Superman's
yeah.
gonna take the guy and put him in jail, and
Right.
you know,
Well,
just
so is Batman.
whereas
in that
Batman's
case,
gonna beat the shit out of the guy,
Right.
and then and then put him in jail or just kill him.
right.
No, Batman never kills anybody except for
Batman.
the lots
with
of people
guns.
that he kills.
Not with guns.
In the
But
comics,
I wanted
yes.
to see who your guys' favorite anti-heroes were.
My favorite anti-hero would probably have to be Han Solo.
Really?
Yeah.
What about
Love
comic
that
book
fucking guy.
anti-hero?
Oh my God,
Comic
ElfQuest.
book
What was the
anti-
name?
What?
ElfQuest?
I loved ElfQuest comics. There was an anti-hero.
never read 'em.
You guys never heard of ElfQuest?
Heard
Who
of
has heard of
ElfQuest? Never read
ElfQuest?
the
But you've never read them. They were kind of chick comics. They were from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I won't even go further into this.
Favorite comic book anti-hero would have to be Wolverine, just because his story is so awesome and compelling. But definitely the most entertaining comic book anti-hero is Deadpool.
Yes, he is.
Love that guy.
My favorite. Deadpool.
Yes.
Deadpool is definitely my all-time favorite. Crystal?
Not for comic books because I haven't read them in ages, and my main favorite comic was ElfQuest, and before that,
In the
Archie
70s.
comics. So, but
Jughead.
yeah, Jughead. I
Moose.
No, in the movie Looper that came out not that long ago, which I actually love, the main character, the protagonist, is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I won't
Right.
give any spoilers, so there's no
Thank
need
you.
to. Yes, but he's kind of an anti-hero because he's a drug addict. He just has a lot going in his life.
He's an
and he-
assassin.
Oh yeah, and he's a hired assassin.
Right, he works for the
Duh.
for organized crime.
He's a druggie, so
I
that's-
like him
that's
a lot.
against him.
I have to say I loved that movie. I loved it. So
What was
He's
your
probably-
favorite part about Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
length and girth.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow, I'm never gonna live this down.
No, you're not.
Good thing my relatives in Spain don't really understand American English, so they're gonna
We'll
be like,
translate it into
what?
Spanish for the next show.
Great,
¿Cómo se
great.
dice? No sé. Okay, so we touched on the subject of choices before, and how that can influence your character's development and how your audience views your character. Which, frankly, how your audience views your character is character development. There is nothing else that matters. You know, if you personally feel that this person grew because they did blah and nobody in the world agrees with your viewpoint, then it doesn't matter because your audience, unless you're writing for yourself, which is kind of boring, it doesn't matter. So
Unless it's
cool-
erotica.
Unless it's erotica, in which case it's awesome and not boring in the slightest.
Garrett, you need to start writing that genre.
Erotica?
Yes, you're in the wrong business right now, my friend.
Garrett did one excerpt of erotica, and I don't remember why or where it is, and it literally made me sick. I felt physically ill from reading it, mainly because I knew he wrote it.
I don't remember
and it
this
turned you on a little bit. That was the problem.
In the
Zach?
slightest.
What?
It was something about. I remember under the bed sheets. The rest of it I kind of blanked out, but it was this excerpt. I don't even remember what the fuck it was. I'll have to find it.
What?
It was horrible. Horrible.
I've never done that.
100%.
You need to find it and read it out loud in the next podcast.
I'll find it for next podcast.
Wow. Okay, so
I can't wait.
Choices.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting somewhat back on topic. One thing that a lot of people do in stories, which sometimes it can be done a little heavy-handed, and I'll give you a heavy-handed example in a minute, is give a good guy and a bad guy the same moral choice and contrast their decisions. Now, the most obvious heavy-handed example I can think of is the Scorpion King or the Mummy. It was the Mummy 2 or maybe the Mummy 3. It was one of those terrible Brendan Fraser awesome mummy movies.
Who was in it? The
Brendan
bad guy.
Fraser.
Who was the bad guy?
Oh, the bad guy was that Egyptian-looking mummy dude.
Okay, so it was 1 or 2.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the third one. I love those movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jet Li was in the third one.
Yeah, that's right.
Such a bad idea. They were all a bad idea, but I loved those movies. Those are in the same class of like the cheesy 90s action movies that you're like, nowadays you're like, this is so terrible, but at the time, even now you're like, it's so terrible, but I love it, you know?
Yeah.
Like True Lies. Oh my God, that's really not a very...
it.
Right, it's not a good movie.
Last Action Hero?
No, not so much. I didn't even think that was bad enough to be good when I saw it.
I loved it. The other one I really liked when it came out was Wild Wild West. Like, I thought it was brilliant for some reason.
God.
But you know what? In my defense, I had just moved to the U.S. That was like probably the first movie I saw in theaters in English.
There is no defense against that one.
Come on, it has Will Smith in it.
Right.
So?
It's still terrible. It's his one, like, really terrible, like, what were you thinking movie?
You know, but it's funny how people's viewpoint changed, because I remember when Men in Black came out, it was like the bomb.
It still is.
No, the last, you know what? It still is, but the last movie that came out, I was like, oh, God, this is...
I thought it was a great storyline.
No, I liked it. I liked it because I wanted to see that ending. I wanted, it was Men in Black, but it didn't resonate the same as the first two.
You talking about the third one?
Yeah, the third one.
The third one that came out this year or last year or whatever. It was
I loved the third one.
Yeah,
I did not think it was. It did not cause the same reaction in me as the other two.
Right, but you're also, 15 years older than when the first one came out.
Yeah, I guess so. But, there's movies you watch over and over, and they're still amazing. Like, I just saw Jumanji last night, and I loved it just as much as when I saw it the first time.
A long time.
That's a great movie.
I remember loving that movie when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. When I was 7.
Or Hook. Hook is always good.
Oh, my gosh, I love Hook.
We need to get back on the characters, though.
We really do. Okay, so at the end... spoiler alert, if you care about me spoiling the Mummy 2. If you honestly care that much, though, please don't watch this podcast. Like, come on.
No, that's a good movie. They should go and see that.
It is a good movie, but, like, there's a certain point where even if you don't know the story, you can't care about it being spoiled anymore. Like,
all right, fine.
If somebody tells you the end of Citizen Kane, and you're like, "Whoa, I never saw that."
Honestly, though,
that's your fault.
We talk so much about movies. We honestly talk so much about movies that I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting a following of people just so they can be like, "Wow, I should see that movie. Oh, I should see that movie."
Well,
except
Garrett
that
and
we're
I
all
are from
talking about movies.
Background.
Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
I'm just saying that both you and I are from a film background. I mean, I'm no longer, trying to go for it, but that's I've seen so many fucking movies.
Well, it's honestly probably my favorite storytelling medium. I mean,
too.
it just, It's awesome.
Me too.
And I love books. I love reading books. I love writing books. But there's nothing compared to watching or making a movie. Like making... Google Chat randomly decided to cut to Crystal as she took a sip of her coffee. I don't know that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's not your fault. I don't know why it went to you. That's all.
Let's try that again. I like sucking up camera time.
It's not the only thing you like sucking up.
Oh,
we can go to that.
Oh, why did I should have thought before I before I said that. Jeez.
Oh. Okay. Where were we?
Paparazzis.
Choices. So at the end of The Mummy 2, spoiler alert. It's only taken me 15 minutes to get here. Brendan.
He died.
You know,
Brendan
Dave
Fraser.
paused this, and then he comes back, and you're about to give it away. Right when he comes back on it.
Dave, spoiler alert. Brendan Fraser is hanging over a cliff above a pit of lava, because you do. So is the bad guy. Brendan Fraser's wife, who he's been having marital problems with the whole movie, is sitting like 20 feet away, and so is the bad guy's eternal love. Brendan Fraser goes, you know, sweetie, it's okay, leave me, go, save yourself. And she says, screw that, and she comes and pulls him up over the cliff and saves him. And then the bad guy does the opposite, and he's like, sweetie, come. He sees Brendan Fraser. It's so overdramatic and ridiculous. I can't, like, you can't know until you see it. He looks over at Brendan Fraser, and he's like, oh. And then he looks at his girl, and he's like, come help me, come help me. And she turns and runs away. And then he, from his perfectly secure and safe position on the cliff, lets go and pushes himself off into the pit of lava.
There's no
and
lava,
it's like,
by the way.
I don't remember what the fuck it is. Who cares? It's The Mummy 2.
And then he gets torn apart by arms.
Honestly, all those movies turned into one massive blur for me. Like the minute I finished watching them.
I love
Stop
it. That was
Crystal.
The Mummy too. I like the movie. I understand what you're saying though.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's heavy-handed, but it is a storytelling device. If you have a bad guy and a good guy, and they're both in a situation where they can do one or the other thing, and the good guy does one thing and the bad guy does another thing, boom, you've illustrated a difference between the two of them. And whatever you think your audience would choose, have your protagonist do it, and they will like him. It can be the save the cat moment, you know. It's that moment.
Or the Deus Ex Machina.
Right. It's that moment where the bad guy and the cop are running away from. The cop is chasing the bad guy, and there's a fire raging in the forest, and then there's a little kid, and they're going to be burned up by the fire, and the robber runs right past him, and the cop stops and saves the kid. It's like, show their differences by their opposite moral choices, or create confusion and conflict. Make your villain more sympathetic by having him do the moral decision, or make your protagonist seem a little more ruthless, or give him a character flaw by having him do the less moral decision.
You know, it's also, sorry, Zach, I just wanted to say this before I forget. It's also used as a device when you have the main character, the protagonist, and he failed to do something like I remember in iRobot, this is not even a spoiler because it's at the beginning of the film.
Okay, good.
Will Smith, fails to save this kid that's in
That's
the
the
water.
end.
Oh, is that?
Kidding.
That's not
no,
the
I'm
end.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm like, geez, am I developing dementia here? Anyway, so now like you have like he's like totally beating himself up over it his whole life because a robot comes and saves him instead of the kid because it calculates like the percentages, the likelihood of who's going to survive going back up the water or whatever. So like the guy's like beating himself up and he's like super depressed and this and that. It's like, come on. I mean, I can see that it could be used as a device, but it's very common. Like I can't think of another example at this moment, but I've seen it before and it always annoys me. I mean, I was going to say
all the time. Can't think of another example right now, but all the
No, I was going to say I can't remember the name of the film right now with Tom Cruise where he gets it's like they travel to the future and like arrest bad guys that are about to commit a crime. Minority Report. But that, in that case, it's his own son. Is that a spoiler? It's not, right?
What?
He's all depressed and takes drugs and whatever. He's a junkie because his own son went missing. So the whole movie, he's a cop, but he's like really depressed and whatever. Well, that's
that
more
happens
understandable.
In the first act. That's
right.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but again, there's a difference between bad things happening to a character and like a choice that they can make. And there goes Zach.
There goes my whole screen. I don't see
Zach,
anything.
Did you cut your camera? He's gone. Okay.
Oh.
We'll get him back in a minute.
All right.
So I've mentioned that I'm watching Battlestar Galactica. Great examples of this all over the place. Sometimes the commander or the president makes really tough decisions. And, I don't know if it makes them more sympathetic or less sympathetic. Like, okay, so the entire fleet is being attacked by Cylons, and the only way that they're able to survive every time the Cylons attack is they all jump away, faster than light, jump away to another predetermined location. Right near the beginning of the series, the whole fleet's under attack. They're fucked, just fucked beyond fucked. And one of the ship's faster than light drives cuts out. It's gone. It doesn't work. Yeah, Battlestar. It doesn't work, and the commander's like, everybody else jump. Sorry, like what's he gonna do? He's gonna sacrifice all that remains of humanity to try and save one ship, which they won't even be able to do. No, he makes the decision and he jumps, and it's like you're watching and you're just like, oh, dude, like you wish he could have figured something else out. You wish he could have figured out a better solution to save that ship too, but it makes it so much more real and gritty that he can't. Like there was nothing he could have done. And I just think that's amazing when you can work that into a story and still have your character be likable.
Right, and I think that comes down to your characters having different character points. You can go into their ethical actions or their belief system or their values and their skills, and all this stuff is going to build a character up so that you have your original character that you're going to use in your book, and all these little traits make your character.
Right.
So
belief systems are actually a really, really good one. Let's say that you're writing a movie or a story or something, and it's sort of a protest against a certain way of life, a certain way of thinking. Like Fight Club, where he's bought into corporate America and he's just living that life and da-da-da-da-da. You have a group there, and you have your main character in agreement with that group. And over the course of the story, he's presented with greater and greater challenges to the mindset of that group, to the whole philosophy of this group that he's subscribed to for his whole life. And then eventually it becomes too much and he breaks free of it. Right. Fight Club is a fantastic example of just like, screw the system. And he's screwing a very particular system. He's not saying screw everybody. He's not an anarchist. But he's saying screw this very particular system, this very particular culture that pushes people down and yada, yada, yada. But you could do that with anything. Say that you're like a real hardcore liberal and you just like want a whole novel about fuck the the Republicans or the conservatives or whatever you want to say, and you write a whole story about a literature novel about a person who's grown up in his whole life in a political right-wing family, and his coming of age where he breaks free of that and da 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 da.
Right, exactly, and that also comes down to a movie called Equilibrium, and that movie is it's so good, it's such a great movie.
So good.
And it's basically taking the idea that the world turns into a police state, and
right.
what the world will get to, everybody's medicated and all this shit, and it's one man's fight against the system.
Right.
And it's such a great movie. If anybody hasn't seen it, go fucking see Equilibrium.
Dude, if you haven't seen Equilibrium, you need to. It's I loved it when it first became like cult, popular, people were like, dude, it was before the Matrix, and it's so much better than the. It's not. It's not better than the Matrix. It's just not. It's not like that good of a movie because the Matrix is fucking awesome. But it was before the Matrix. It dealt with similar themes, and the martial arts and stuff is pretty cool. Completely unrealistic.
I personally think they're both different movies, though. To me, like they're different. I mean, they're the same type of basic storyline, I guess, but I never go, oh, Equilibrium or compared to the Matrix. I never compare them.
Really?
Yeah, never, ever.
With the gun martial arts in both of the movies and the suppressed society all kept,
because Equilibrium's gun martial arts are not even close to what was in Matrix.
Right, they're not very realistic.
But my point, like, what gun martial arts are you talking about with, like, just that they shoot
just
shit
the
tons
martial
of guns?
arts and guns in both of those movies. It's like he's fighting with guns and fists and martial arts and swords, and they do the same thing in the Matrix.
Yeah, I've never compared them.
Better and more aesthetically, in my opinion.
It's also
it's
made
badass.
Later.
What?
It was also made later and had a bigger budget. The Matrix.
Way bigger budget. Yeah, totally.
So, you're going to get that type of stuff. But to me, they're two different storylines, though they do have the same basic storyline. Right. I've never compared them because they're both awesome. I'm not as crazy about The Matrix as you are. It's a great movie, but, I'm not like, holy shit.
I think in many ways The Matrix is like the perfect story. Absolutely perfect. I mean, and the perfect film in the way that they constructed it. Not the perfect film because, I do love Keanu Reeves, but he's just not the best actor. But how they got around that and used the bigness of his name was they had him there and they had him surrounded by these incredible actors who made him look fantastic. He has a conversation with Lawrence Fishburne, and you come away from the scene and you're like, holy shit, that scene was awesome. I guess Keanu Reeves isn't that bad. He actually said 2 words, and then it was Morpheus going on for 5 minutes about awesomeness, and you're just like, oh.
Is that the mirror scene? The mirror.
The mirror scene, perfect example. The kung fu scene. I don't think Keanu Reeves said a word in the kung fu scene.
Yeah, I think my favorite line from Matrix is, "Whoa." Favorite line.
And they got the exact right guy to deliver lines like that. They really did.
Yeah, they did. Which takes me to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Mm-hmm. Great character development.
Totally. Those characters underwent some real growth and made some, deep personal changes in their lives that I think that anyone can relate to.
Agreed.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought.
That was the.
Yeah,
Avatar.
no, I thought that was a Wayne's World thing, but that was different.
That's also a Wayne's World thing.
It's both. Yeah, sorry. I just saw.
I fucking love Wayne's World.
Oh my god.
Wayne's World is one of my favorites.
Okay, now this is a good.
But Benjamin's my friend.
What?
Benjamin's nobody's friend. If Benjamin were an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick.
Okay. Now, those two... Oh, God, Crystal, what are you doing?
Sorry, I had to clap to that.
Don't you have something better to do with your time?
I'm actually a married woman. I have laundry to do.
Right. I forgot about that. No,
I'm clapping because we ended off on the Matrix talk.
Why?
And I can talk
Are you not a fan?
I have nothing to... I'm just going to stay neutral on this.
Have you seen the
like
movie?
Switzerland.
What
yes, of course I've seen the movies.
On the Matrix.
What do you mean, of course? There's a lot of shit you haven't seen that you should have already seen, so it's not like a crazy question.
I've seen it. I gotta be honest with you.
Uh-oh. Don't be honest. Let's continue. Let's not even go down this road.
No,
Garrett.
listen, I really like The Matrix. I do. But there's not much difference from one movie to the other.
Oh, no. Yeah, you can rag on 2 and 3. Those movies were terrible.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I always felt bad because I just didn't like number 2 and 3. And I'm like, when people talk about The Matrix, I think they're talking about the whole series. And I'm like, God, I don't know.
Everybody hates 2 and 3. It's like hating the prequels. It's like, the Star Wars prequels. That's totally fine. I've actually have met somebody who grew up in a very deprived situation, I guess, because they never saw Star Wars growing up. And then, right.
Poor them.
and they were pretty young, and then Episode 1 came out, and they were like, I've never seen Star Wars. People always talk about this. Let's go check it out. They went and saw it, and then they grew up, and they were like, I'm the one person in the world who hates Star Wars, And I got them into a conversation one time, and I was like, oh, dude, Star Wars, da-da-da-da-da. And they were like, can I be honest with you? I'm like, yeah, sure. They were like, I hate Star Wars. And there was that initial reaction of, and then I was like, what do you hate about it? And they're like, that little kid is so annoying. What the fuck with the Misa? And I was like, which Star Wars have you seen? And they were like, the first one. The first one release-wise or chronologically? And they were like, I don't fucking know. The one with Jar Jar Binks. And I was like,
I had to watch that movie like 60 times, by the way, because my little brother, who's like 19 now, was obsessed with Star Wars. He had all of the figurines, like thousands of dollars worth of figurines by the time he was 6.
You're talking about Episode 1?
Episode 1, 2, and 3. The ones with the prequels, all the prequels. Vomited.
Now I understand. Now I understand why you're a big campaigner for human rights, because you've gone through torture. You actually have.
Yeah.
I like this Lego Star Wars for Episode 1. The Legos were good. The actual Legos.
The Legos? Oh.
They were pretty cool. Other than that, didn't like the movies.
Can't say that I experienced the Legos.
I ran a school, so I had to deal with kids, and they brought Lego Star Wars. I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
Really? Okay.
I've seen them, and they look pretty cool. The Pirates of the Caribbean Legos look cool, too.
Oh, dude, and the character development on the outside of those boxes is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow's another antihero.
Yes.
Yes, he is. He's
one of the
great
best
one.
in recent memory.
Yes.
He's fantastic.
What
hell happened to that series, anyway?
Length and girth? I don't know. I was expecting there to be a clip there.
Nope.
No, I mean,
it's a genuine question.
It went the Matrix route. It got way too much money. The budget went so far up for the second and third and the fourth, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there 4 now?
There is a 4th, and it still had Johnny Depp, but they bailed on Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, which is
the second 2
and yay.
Yeah, the second two
added,
I think went shit
Cruz.
because of the budget. I remember in the theater, the second movie, I was so fucking psyched, and I remember a 10-second or 7-second shot of a dress slowly sinking into water, and I went, "What the fuck is this shit?" Because it was nothing like the first movie.
I think one of the problem that you see with movies that do really, really well, the first one, and I think it's the same with books, actually, now that I think about it, is that they want to repeat the formula. They decide that there's a successful formula, and they want to do it exactly the same, but obviously a little bit different. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think just because something worked the first time doesn't mean it's going to work 50 freaking times,
Right.
And the movie, like Transformers, you see Transformers 1, you've seen all of them. You see Pirates of the Caribbean 1, you've freaking seen all of them. It's all of those big production ones. There's no value in the sequels. None.
I agree. There's no value in the sequels, but it's because they have too much money to spend. You look at Indiana Jones, and they didn't have that thing. The sequels. I think the third is the best out of all 4 of them. It came third. But with Pirates of the Caribbean or The Matrix, or you mentioned something else, but the sequels are just Transformers. The sequels are just way too big of a budget, and they go, okay, here's the basic storyline, but we still have $150 million to spend. What can we spend it on?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I got to get to this before we run out of time, which we're getting close. I actually got a question from listener Bill Dowis during the week, and we will be setting up a voicemail pretty shortly here. I'll figure out some fucking way to do that in a way that it doesn't cost me money, because there's lots of ways to do it if you're going to pay for it, but fuck that. Okay, so Bill Dowis asks, shit, I thought I had it pulled up. Obviously, I didn't. Oh, here we go. How much effort, this is a subject we talked about a lot last week. How much effort do you put into naming characters? How do you find good names? And what about names of people you know? And he did a follow-up, which was, I'm always worried about using names of people I know and what they'll think of me doing so. Maybe as simple as I like the name, like as a handling. Go ahead,
Let me
Zach.
jump on this. For naming characters, for me, for example, my first three main characters, which are Danny, Sam, and Molly, I just pulled the name out of my ass, honestly. Molly is named after, I named her after Molly Brown. That's her name, and she's named after a woman that was on the Titanic who didn't die on the Titanic, and that woman lived next to my grandparents. So I was just like, oh, and that's great.
The chick in the movie, like the big loud
Kathy Bates, yeah.
Yes!
Kathy Bates
Wow.
Molly Brown. That's who.
Love
That's
her!
who. Yeah, she's a great character. But that's who Molly is named after. But with Danny and Sam, and the name Calloway, that just kind of jumped into my head. But for me, putting my friends' names in the books, if I know they'll be fine with it, I'm totally willing to do it. When you read my book, because I know you will, you're gonna find a girl named Julie. She runs a diner. She's this little Asian girl who's a friend of mine, or Garrett's and mine, and she's awesome. She's quirky and everything, and it's a totally perfect fit, And I mentioned Mrs. Sherman at one point. That's a girl named Julianne that we know, that we grew up with. I use a lot of people's names because I like to give like a little shout out to them almost. It's almost like a little inside joke, and they can go around being like, hey, this character's named after me. I personally love that. If you have a character, if you have a friend who is kind of a dick, for one, why are you friends? But for two, don't take the chance, because if say your book does really, really well, and this person is unpredictable, they can come at you with it. So.
No, but I mean, as long as you have a,
Sure. Are you kidding me?
What's that called? That legalese that you put in the front of the book.
That names are based off of actual people.
Yeah, that anything is a
but see, the
coincidence.
thing is it doesn't matter if you put that in. Let's say you've got a friend named Don Johnson. We don't know a Don Johnson, do we?
No.
Okay, so let's say you've got a friend, you know someone named Don Johnson, and he used to, you know that he's been in prison for running cocaine, but then he was acquitted of charges recently, and da-da-da-da. Then you write a book about a character named Don Johnson, who's a cocaine runner, and he lives at, like, in LA, right, and you describe the area where he lives as like at the exact place where the actual Don Johnson lives.
Obviously, but I mean,
so I'm just saying,
you might use the name of someone and then it's a totally different character. It's in a different era. I don't know. So
I actually answered Bill personally, and I said I almost always use the name Chad. And I have a really good friend who's a great writer and director, and his name is Chad. I never use the name thinking of Chad. I just fucking love the name Chad. It's an awesome name. And he knows that. He's read several of my scripts, and he's like, you always have the... And I'm like, I just fucking like the name.
You should use Chad's last name.
Kukahiko?
Yeah.
He's Hawaiian, so his last name is actually Kukahiko. It's kind of awesome.
That's a great name. Anybody should use that.
Right?
Go ahead. I give you permission. He won't sue you.
Awesome.
That's a great name. I love how you guys consult each other. Like, do we know any Don Johnsons? Because obviously everybody in the world that Zach knows, Garrett knows.
Yep.
Don Johnson.
You guys are like twins. Don Johnson?
Oh, yeah. I've done that before. Okay, and that's the other thing. If you come up with a name, Google it.
Yeah.
It's the first thing you should do. Just Google it.
Oh, my God. Sorry, go ahead. I'm cutting you off.
One of the main characters in Hit Girls is named Steve Bronson, and I came up with at first I was going to name him Charlie Bronson, and I was like, nope, Can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, with Danny Calloway, I didn't Google. For the first, 3 years, I had the idea and was just, making notes and, fucking around. But when I finally started, I was so attached to the name, I was too scared to Google him. And it took me months to build up the courage to do it because I did not want to see another book or another character named Danny Calloway because I was fucking freaked. And I did it, and I was like, oh, thank the Lord.
Zach and I, my next project and Zach's next project after another project, right, is a serialized novel that we're writing together. And we came up with the name, and we were like, that's fucking badass. And then we searched it on Amazon, and there was another one, but it, like nobody had ever read it. There were no reviews, and the sales rank was shitty, so we're like, yeah, we're taking it.
You're talking about RK, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything named after that one, but there was a name that we were talking about.
There was another one. There was another one named after what we were talking about. But that one, if you Google that, or if you search that in Amazon, a bunch of stuff does come up, but nothing that we particularly care about or are worried about.
Right. Yeah.
I love how much you guys are saying with your silences.
Shush.
Yeah.
So I was going somewhere. Oh, yeah, and then there was a second part to Bill's question that we haven't addressed yet, which is resources for finding names. Number one, Scrivener has a name generator. You just go in Scrivener and you do name. I'm sorry. 1 second, guys.
I actually was looking at your screen and I thought that was my door opening, and I'm like, wait, I'm not in that place.
You can go into Scrivener and you can go into the name generator, and basically you can generate names. You also have that in first draft or final draft as well.
Right. Yeah. By the way, the last episode you called it first draft 5 times.
Did I really say first draft?
You did, and I didn't notice at the time. But then when I listened back to the episode, I was like, he's talking about final draft. Oh man.
Yeah, final draft. That's funny.
And then
a lot of people use baby books. I hate baby books.
Well, here's the thing. Them. If you want a meaningful name for your main character, just Google name meaning blah. Think of something that you want to be associated with that character. Neo. The fuck does Neo mean again?
Something.
The only or the one.
The thing that you're going to run into with that though, and I. Especially if you're writing a fantasy, is you're gonna
recent or new.
You're going to end up with a name that what Crystal and I were talking about. Those names like XYZXR, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What I did for another main character in Hit Girls was I said name meaning mentor or teacher,
right?
And there was this whole long list, and it was like Absonel, and I was like, fuck that. Charadeth, and I was like, well, fuck that too.
They sound like Pokemon.
William, his name is William.
Good. Yeah, no, that's good. And the other thing is that say you find a name that you want to have meaning connected to their name, but is kind of abstract, but you still want to use it, you can always make it their surname. If it's their last name, people can still call them by the last name. Right. I have a character, Mr. Blythe. His name isn't Mr. Blythe. His last name, his surname is Blythe. His first name is Roger.
Right.
So, but people are like, it's Blythe.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And you can also, come up with nicknames off of stuff. If if a girl is named Nikita, nobody's going to call her. I mean, unless it's a Russian book, or I don't know. People could call her Nikita, but it's more likely that she's going to be referred to as Nikki, who is one of the main characters in Hit Girls and the one that made Zach stop reading.
Yes.
She's the 14-year-old who tortures people to death. Yeah, I started selling copies today after Hit Girls came out, and I'm just waiting for the returns to start pouring in. People
right when
get
they
to
hit
chapter 3, and Nikki starts she starts carving flesh off of the bottom of their fingers, and people are just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
did you put a disclaimer? Did you put some kind of disclaimer?
Oh, I did right at the beginning. Yeah, I
That's
said at the
good.
beginning, it's like, right, so that like people hopefully download the sample of the book, see that, and they're like, yeah, no, maybe not so much. I mean, hopefully they don't say that and they get the book because I want people to get the book and enjoy it. But, yeah.
I think Quentin Tarantino has laid out the groundwork for really gory, bloody, violent scenes. So
That's
people
how
are
I
very
describe Hit Girls.
desensitized. Yeah.
That's how I describe it. I describe it
Tarantino?
as like a mix between Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction, and Justified, which I fucking love the TV show Justified. If you haven't checked it out and you like crime drama cop show, but it's like it takes place in fucking like bumfuck Alabama or some shit. So anyway.
Yeah, Tarantino's awesome.
So, having thoroughly wrapped up the subject of names, we are at the hour mark or well past it by this point. So, anything important or special to say before we head out?
If anybody has questions that they want to send to me, if they don't have Garrett's, I'm on Twitter at ZCBolger, Bolger, and you can send me questions.
And I am at GBR0Binston. So you can tweet us questions, and I will be setting up some sort of voicemail line because I will. All right, that's it for the Storytelling Podcast this week. Our website is thestorytellingpodcast.com. Go there, leave us comments, tell us what you think, leave us questions there. We'll answer them from there too. My website is gbr0binson.com. Zach's is zcbolger.com. Crystal still doesn't have one. You should go out and buy Hit Girls. It's totally awesome and violent and lots of profanity, and I guarantee it'll make you laugh at least once. All right.
Puke.
And puke. Yeah, if you're Zach. See everybody next week. Good night.